Hi, it's Paul here from selfhelpforlife.com, and today I'm going to cover the top 7 things that anxious people do and give you some ways to change that so you can feel less anxious. Now, I believe that anxiety is not a condition. Instead, I believe it's a series of learned behaviours that become habitual over time. And that's good news, because if it's a habit, then you can unlearn that habit, and that way you can make that change so you feel less anxious over time. Now, the first thing that anxious people do is they make anxiety part of their identity. I'm sure you've said this yourself or heard people say things like, I'm anxious, or I'm an anxious person. Well, when you keep saying those things to yourself, they're like negative affirmations and they become part of your identity. Anything where you say I am will seem like part of your identity. However, anxiety is something you do. It's not something you are. It's not part of your identity. And just knowing that can help you separate that anxiety feeling from who you are and help you feel less anxious. Another way to do that is to think about all the other things that you are. So for instance, you might be a mother, you might be a father, you might be a husband or a wife, you might be a teacher, a doctor, an IT professional, or any other profession. And you're probably several of those things. So when you think about all the other things that you are, then this thing about I'm an anxious person becomes a very, very small part of your life rather than the thing that seems to be really part of your identity. So I think that one can really help. So the second thing that anxious people do is they have a negative view of the future. So they think, imagine and believe that things are going to go badly in the future, that they're not going to work out for them. And often what happens is the imagination becomes overactive and they start imagining the worst possible scenarios. But in reality, things normally work out okay. Sometimes they work out really, really well. Very occasionally things go badly, but the norm is that things normally work out okay. And you can easily prove this to yourself by just looking back at things that you were anxious about in the past and ask yourself, how did they turn out? And I can pretty much guarantee that 95% of the time they actually worked out okay. So that means in the future, the same thing is going to happen. So the third thing about anxious people is they don't like uncertainty and change. Now, we live in a rapidly changing world, and that's not likely to change anytime soon. So it's important to start to become okay with change, to become reasonably comfortable with change. You don't need to embrace change, you just need to become okay and a little bit comfortable with it, because change is the only constant. That's the one thing we can guarantee, is that things are going to continue to change. And uncertainty can be exciting. You know, when you go to a soccer match, if you knew the result, that would be boring. We like the surprise, we like the uncertainty of not quite knowing what's going to happen. And if your life seems to be quite mundane at the moment, then I encourage you to make some changes. Do some things that take you out of your comfort zone and get that excitement back into your life, because you need uncertainty to have a sense of excitement. Okay, the next one, number 4, is that anxious people overthink things. Now, they're not necessarily thinking about things in a negative way, they're just thinking too much. So there's just lots of thinking going on. And this thinking could be about the solution to the problem, it could be about the different options, different decisions you could make, it could be problem solving or trying to fix something in some way. So it's not negative thinking, it's just general thinking. And I think one way to know when you're overthinking is if it's more about the process, more about the how to and the step by step, more focused on the how than the what. I think that can be a clue that maybe you're thinking too much about the problem. And another way to think about it is, if the continual thinking about it, is that actually helping you reach a solution? Is it helping you make a decision and reach a conclusion? If it is, then that's a sensible amount of thinking. If it seems to be just keeping you looped and stuck in the problem and you don't really see a way out, then that's an excessive amount of thinking and that's not really helping you. So how do you reduce or stop excessive thinking? Well, firstly is being aware of it. And when you notice that you're thinking too much about something, just mentally say the word stop, or say it out loud if you can, or say the word delete, or thanks for sharing. Okay, so just say stop, delete, or thanks for sharing, whichever one suits you the best. Another way is to physically relax, so to relax your body. Because when your body relaxes, your mind relaxes as well, and those incessant thoughts become slower, and maybe your mind will start to think about other things as well. So a great way to do that is meditation. That's great for both relaxing both your body and your mind. Or you can do my rapid relaxation exercise, which is a great way to completely relax in 5 minutes or less. And a video that covers the rapid relaxation exercise will appear just here right now. So the next thing that anxious people do, number 5, is they ask but they don't answer what if questions. So asking what if questions is a good thing to do. It's great for planning. It's not answering them that's the problem, because when you don't answer them, that increases your feelings of anxiety. So the solution is to start answering any what if questions that you notice in your mind. And when you do that, you're creating a plan for how to deal with whatever worst case scenarios that might arise. And when you know what they are and you have a plan, then you're more prepared for them. And when you feel more prepared, there's less need to feel anxious about them. Because what happens when you ask but don't answer what if questions is your mind tends to blow things out of proportion. Okay, so when you start answering what if type questions, you're giving your mind a reality check, and that reduces those anxiety feelings. Okay, the next thing that anxious people do, number 6, is ineffective compartmentalization. So what does that mean? Well, that's basically taking thoughts and worries from one part of life and putting them into another. So this could be about thinking about work problems when you're enjoying a night out with your partner or out with friends. Or it could be taking your worries and problems from home life into work. When you do that, it takes you out of the moment, it takes you out of the present, and it's also hard to switch off. And if you find that you're taking your worries when you're trying to sleep at night, then obviously that's going to affect the quality of your sleep as well. So the solution to this is to be able to learn how to switch off. How to switch off so you're not thinking about things that you can't deal with right now at those times. Okay, so again, it starts with awareness. So noticing when you're thinking about something that you can't control right now, and then just saying the words stop, delete, or thanks for sharing. Or a lovely thing you can do is what I call the boxes visualization. So you imagine a very, very nice room, very, very nice, peaceful room. I tend to imagine one that's kind of like a nice white, peaceful color. And you imagine these boxes on the wall with keys in them. And what you do is you mentally open a box and you imagine putting all your worries about one aspect of life, say it's your work and your career, into that box. And then you lock the box. Okay, and then you go to the next area of your life. So maybe it's relationships or family life. And you put all those worries into that box and you take the key and you lock it. Okay, and you just keep doing that with all your areas of life. This is a great thing to do before going to sleep. If you're struggling to sleep, this is a great thing to do, because what it's doing is telling your unconscious mind that it's okay now to leave those where they are, leave those in those boxes, they're locked away, and come back to them at another time. So a great one to do just before going to sleep. But look, if you find that you're thinking about things at other times when you can't act, like, as I say, when you're meant to be enjoying yourself, then you can just mentally take a couple of minutes to do that exercise then as well. And then the last thing that anxious people do, number 7, is they overestimate risk. Now, the world is not perfect, we know that, and we know that bad things do happen. You just need to read the news every day and you'll know that bad things happen in the world. You know, as I'm recording this video, a plane could hit this building, okay? An earthquake could happen. These are all possible. Your next flight could be on the plane that crashes. These are all possible. If we look at the news, these things have all happened in the past, okay? They're all possible, but they're also highly unlikely. Very, very unlikely. So what you need to do is you need to think about what is possible but not probable. Okay, and if something is possible but highly unlikely, then there's no need to get anxious about it. Okay, because if you think about it as being much more risky than it really is, then obviously you're going to feel anxious about it. Okay, so it's really important that you just have an accurate risk assessment of what's the likelihood of that thing happening. Okay, so those were 7 things that anxious people do, and for each of those I've covered some ways to stop doing that and to do something else instead. And when you do that, when you apply these to your life, you're going to feel less anxious, and they're very practical ways as well that you can do. And remember that anxiety is not who you are, it is a learned behaviour, and it is something you can change. So that's good news if you're watching this and you're someone that's been anxious for a long time. know that you can do something about it. So if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, please give it a thumbs up, and do leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. And do subscribe to this channel and click the bell notification. That way you will always be notified when I release future videos just like this one. And if you haven't already, do go and check out my website. That's selfhelpforlife.com. On my website, you will find the written blog articles that accompany many of these videos, and also links to my podcast and social media as well. So I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to sharing more great content with you very soon. Bye for now.